our warfare, our defense, our economy, our security, everything is going to be run by artificial intelligence.
Like, what lessons can NATO and India draw from the European Union in building a strong international youth engagement for policy making and peace building?
The simple message is that the more institutions come up with this kind of leadership programs.
So US and China are probably the only two players out there globally in AI.
Really doing a rapid fire with both of you guys. F-22 or Su-57. One word to describe the role of youth in global politics today. Namaste and welcome viewers. Watching us from the other side of the screen, this is Arjun Chaudhary, a research associate at the GEOSTRATA and your host for this intriguing podcast named Yuva Shakti. In today's podcast, we'll be discussing the evolving nature of modern warfare, from cybersecurity and disinformation campaigns to radicalization through digital media platforms. We'll also try to understand how young leaders and professionals can help in shaping the resilient frameworks and bridging the gap between academic research and policy making. To tackle these big questions, we have with us Mr. Kevin Baer, who's from Germany and currently heading the office to the member of European Parliament, Christian Doleschal. I hope I pronounced that right.
Yeah, it's really good.
He's also the chairman of Young Union in Brussels, which is a leading youth political organization. With a degree in Masters in Economics from the University of Jena, he brings a unique blend of policy expertise and leadership experience. And on the other hand, we have Dr. Shreya Sinha, who is currently a research associate at the Vivekananda International Foundation, and she holds multiple degrees starting with PhD and MPhil from the European Studies of Jawaharlal Nehru University. She also holds a master's degree in international relations from the same university, and you can often find her commentaries in the columns of First Post, the Indian Express, and the Sunday Guardian. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Without any further ado, let's begin our podcast. So, my first question is for you, Mr. Baer. Please tell us how India has been to you, and please also tell us what's your favorite dish around India.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's now my third or fourth time in India. Whenever I'm here, I have a great time. I love to spend my vacations here, but I also like to attend the Resina Dialogue. It's my second time now, and I think it was a really smart idea of you to host the India-NATO Youth Conference directly as a follow-up of Resina. And so I'm enjoying my time here and looking forward to the podcast.
Yeah, sure. So my second question is also for you, which is about gerontocracy. I'm sure you must be knowing what it is, but for our viewers, gerontocracy means a society ruled by the old. Let me put some data here. If you see the data, only 1.6% of the total parliamentarians around the globe are in their 20s, and the average age of parliamentarian is 53. Despite the fact that the total young population in the world is 1/5. So how do you think this trend is impacting the ability of young leaders in shaping a resilient future? And what are the steps that can be taken to address it?
It's a really good question, and being here in India as a German, a really relevant question. The average age in Germany is 44. Here in India, it's close to 29.
Yeah.
So me, the age of 31, on the one continent, I still belong to the youth. On the other one, I'm still the older part of the society. And whenever I'm in India, I also have a lot of friends in the BGP, in the youth BGP. It's incredible to see how big the organizations are, how great the social media campaigns, the campaigning in general is, and to see the new creative approaches. And what we in Germany can especially learn from is just to make the events we are doing more interesting, to demand for more to have a say on specific points, and simply become more innovative. And what I mean with this is we have seen a wonderful conference here. I learned your Instagram account was found 3 years ago. Now it has more than 100,000 followers. Everything is on a really high standard, well organized. So the degree of professionalism is really high. And as a youth organization, we should really catch up with that to also get more impact in the general society.
Yeah, thank you for the answer, Mr. Baer. And now taking control to you, ma'am. So my question to you is around the changing nature of warfare, since you are expert in that. So the question is, there are disinformation campaigns, hybrid threats becoming more potent. These challenges demand more building adaptive resilient frameworks with the integration of youth. So given your expertise in security studies and non-traditional threats, how do you perceive the role of young professionals and emerging leaders in countering such threats?
Thank you, Arjun, for the question. Although, on a side note, I would like to say I also want to be asked easy questions like what's my favorite dish? No, but jokes aside, thank you for the question. You are absolutely right, Arjun, by saying that the security threat perception is rapidly evolving. And if we see that non-traditional security threats have come very much to the forefront. If we trace back history and security history, we see that since the end of World War II, security was primarily defined at the nation-state level. And it was seen almost exclusively through the military prism. But it was only with the end of Cold War that these new non-traditional security threats came more to the forefront, right? When we talk about terrorism, climate change, or cybersecurity, AI, modernizing warfare, hybrid warfare, and all of that. But at the same time, we must not forget that if we see the geopolitics of today, there is somewhat a resurgence of traditional conflict as well. Since 2022, we see with the Russia-Ukraine war and the conflict in the Middle East and many other conflicts across the globe. So I think we are in a very unprecedented time and we are navigating uncharted territories. But at the same time, we cannot ignore the fact that AI or cybersecurity is very much a prominent threat to actors across the globe, be it NATO, be it India, be it anything. And the very important thing is that they are all operating in the digital realm and their priorities and perspectives are rapidly shifting. So there is no one thing which we can pinpoint on that this is how we tackle cybersecurity. But one very important aspect is youth engagement in tackling this. And I think conference like this is very much beneficial to understand the importance of youth engagement and why youth are important in tackling these non-traditional and evolving security threats. I would like to mention a few points in that. Firstly, because of their immense digital literacy. Right. Youth leaders, I would like to count myself as youth as well. We are all born and have been brought up in a digital first environment. So we are not only bringing unique ideas and opinions to the table, but we are also bringing our own lived experiences, which are unique and unfamiliar to the previous generation. That's not how they were brought up. They were mostly related to, they had the baggage of Cold War politics or historical alignments as well. But we as a generation don't have that. Our realities are more shaped by the geopolitics of today, the interconnectedness. And that is why it's going to help us build an adaptive resilience as well. So in terms of digital literacy, I think an amount of strategic digital engagement that the youth can do in, like you mentioned, disinformation campaigns. Disinformation campaigns are a very existential threat to the democracies of today because they are not only manipulating public opinion, but they're also weakening the trust in institutions. So I think in this context, youth engagement becomes important because we also have social media as a tool. We can use social media to be able to spread awareness campaigns regarding misinformation or disinformation, right? We can be content creators and we can take the counter narrative of this in our hands as well. In terms of hybrid warfare also, we see that in addition to conventional military tactics, now there are psychological tactics or more economic tactics coming into play. And what youth is bringing to the table is their strategic foresight, something which I believe the previous generation may not be able to do as well as us. Because of our strategic foresight, we are able to anticipate the threat as opposed to just responding to it. Because when we talk about adaptive resilience, I think resilience is not just about responding to the threat. I think it is about preempting it, anticipating it, adapting strategies to respond to it, and having innovative solutions to respond to it. So I think in that respect, youth engagement is very important.
I guess that pretty well answered my question. Yeah. Moving on, my next question is for you, Mr. Bear. The European Union has been a strong advocate for youth integration into policy making. You can see programs like Erasmus Initiative and numerous youth exchange programs. Like, what lessons can NATO and India draw from the European Union in building a strong international youth engagement for policy making and peace building?
Thank you so much for the question. And I didn't forget about the question, what's my favorite dishes? I just cannot decide. So the diplomatic answer would be simply a thali, and I choose whatever I want. But coming back to the question, indeed, there's much to learn from Europe and the European Union. You mentioned the example of the Erasmus program, which whoever participated is shaped for life, gained valuable experience traveling 6 months or studying 6 months in a different part of Europe. But you can also have a look on other institutions, which is maybe not so familiar for you. I'm part of the EPP group, the oldest and strongest group in the European Parliament, and they offer, for example, like the EPP Youth Week or different kind of traineeships. So simply offer this kind of annual institutionalized programs and conferences is a great asset. Our youth organization itself, the Youth of the European People's Party, YEP, is doing, for example, annual Transatlantic Youth Summit, when 30 delegates are on a 2-day conference in Washington, meeting with key stakeholders, having engaging discussions. And what is also a great result of these programs is to create some kind of sustainable success out of these conferences. So I'm talking about strong alumni networks to stay in contact with each other, to really facilitate each other's career among the years. For example, the Konrad Adenauer Foundation is doing the Konrad Adenauer program for young leaders across 17 countries in Asia. So you have one batch, and then there are 1 or 2 young leaders from each country. So you really have a change in perspective. And the simple message is that the more institutions come up with this kind of leadership programs, conferences, and different kind of organizations, the better. And the more funding is also guaranteed to increase the exchange between young leaders.
Thank you for the answer, Mr. Vea again. Moving on to you, ma'am. My next question is, there's often a gap between academic research on security and its actual implication. While the academic research provides deep insights, but its actual implementation requires institutional support and engagement with decision makers. Based upon your experience, the intersection of academia and policy, what challenges hinder the translation of research into its implication, and how can young scholars and researchers bridge this gap?
Okay, thank you for that question. I completely agree with the first point that you've made, that there is a lag between actual research and actionable policy which is coming to the output. And that is a very much persistent problem. I think there are a few reasons why this is happening. Firstly, on the top of my head, I think it is because of the time lag that happens between when the research is being done and when the policy is being adopted. The whole process for it to reach from point A to point B has a lot of processes, has a lot of institutional obstacles as well. And that is why the research transforming into policy outcome has a time gap. And I think that is something which needs to be resolved. By streamlining those processes, we can do that. For example, if we have, even though we have a lot of researchers on artificial intelligence and things like that, but at the same time, by the time those research are being transformed into security policies, some new kind of AI threats have already come into the picture. So this research, which was there, kind of becomes not so productive by the time it reaches the policymakers. So I think we need to streamline those processes in a better way. And also, very importantly, to spend more on research and development. Because I've taken the example of AI, we must know that US and China are probably the only 2 players out there globally in AI. There is no India, there is no Europe. That's no better way to put it. So we really need to spend as much as other economies are spending on the AI, because that is the future. We need to anticipate that our warfare, our defense, our economy, our security, everything is going to be run by artificial intelligence, by technology, by the digital domain. So we need to invest more in research and development on those aspects. Secondly, I think there are also some institutional silos within which research is taking place. There is one think tank here working on a certain aspect, there is one university course on some other aspect, and there is some other NGO working on the same concept, but there is no collaboration between them, even within countries and even cross country. Because we are talking about India and NATO, it is very important to understand that there is not much collaboration between India and NATO when it comes to sharing of knowledge or sharing of resources or any kind of collaboration which is not happening. And that is why research often remains in university archives and it does not translate into policy outcomes. Another very important part, which I think is changing, but it is very slow, is the fact that we need more domain experts at the policy making level as well. We cannot just segregate it that domain experts will do the research and then give it to the policymakers, but there need to be more sectoral experts at the policy making level as well, so that can encourage more actionable policy to be made. And of course, the youth can bridge this gap through diplomacy, digital diplomacy, youth-led diplomacy, engaging more in policy labs. But I think the more important part is not just engaging the youth, but to be able to provide the capacity to actually engage the youth. So I think the state also has a big role to play in this.
And just if I'm allowed to add maybe one point, you are talking about artificial intelligence and regulation and the speed of the whole evolution within this topic. And in the European Union, when there was the proposal to regulate artificial intelligence, there was basically no awareness of ChatGPT and so on.
Right.
And after the proposal went through the whole process and was finally voted, basically everyone was already using ChatGPT in the offices.
Exactly.
So the speed of the evolution of this whole process is also a big challenge, and policymaking needs to catch up with that.
Definitely.
Looks like you guys teamed up on this question. So my next question is for both of you. You both have to answer one by one, which is, what are your key takeaways from this inaugural NIYC, which is NATO India Youth Conference, and how do you see its role in fostering long-term engagement between India and NATO youths, and how can we institutionalize this platform?
Ladies first.
You want me to go first? Sure. My key takeaways. Firstly, I think it is a very important initiative which has been taken because, like I said, we don't have any formal partnerships or agreements between India and NATO, but we no longer need binding treaties. We are in an age where diplomacy should not be limited to just treaties or agreements. It should not be limited to just government to government closed door negotiations. It is the time where youth-led initiatives or youth-led diplomacy needs to take more center stage. It needs to be more people to people. And I think it's a great platform to begin with to be able to engage the youth of India to the youth of the NATO member states. So in that way, it's a great platform. But my key takeaway would be that it needs more than just a dialogue annually to build more on this partnership. Of course, it is the first time that we are doing such a conference, but there needs to be more kind of institutionalized mechanisms which can help translate, again, going from my previous remark, to translate these kind of dialogues or whatever is coming out of it into actionable policy recommendations, right? So I think for that, we need more institutionalized support. And for that, I think the governments of both the actors need to step up and bring a more institutionalized and sustainable way in which the voice of the youth can reach the policymakers and the youth can actively engage in foreign policy discussions. Because there are many countries who already have youth advisory councils integrated into their ministries. But I believe India in that aspect can do a better job in integrating our youth voices to our concerned diplomats.
Yes, you correctly mentioned it was a great start, and also a timely start because I'm coming from Germany, so from Europe, and now during the past years and months, we had to learn the hard way about the importance of the Indo-Pacific, and I'm talking about the strategic interest of the U.S. administration. While even the Obama administration told the Europeans about the limited capacities to fight on two fronts, and there will be a shift of focus to the Indo-Pacific, Europe and especially Germany was excessively using the peace dividend and not stepping up the defense spendings. And now since we woke up after the recent incidents and are really stepping up the game. It's great to be here and to timely talk about these topics. And while having these talks, it also builds some kind of understanding positions of India, of the Indian youth, especially compared also to maybe what the older Indian politicians said at the Raisina dialogue. So my personal opinion is that you are really very much open-minded, and that's great to hear. And not only to have these talks, but also to facilitate understanding, and in the end also building trust,
Right.
because we are not just talking about the weather or whatever. We are talking about specific points, about factual points. We have seen great panels and great speakers. I think everyone learned something, and like you said, it looks like this definitely should be institutionalized.
Yes.
I'm always a fan of having like this back-to-back events, 1 year in India, the other time in Europe or in the US. It's simply great to understand also the environment and the different circumstances. And so I'm definitely looking forward to a next version. And like you also said, working on specific projects would be great. I'm a big fan of policy planning, so just to look at scenarios, if this happens, what would happen next, and to simply you can set up some kind of discussion round, bring something to paper,
Right.
and then everyone will share the same vision, I think.
Right.
So my not last, but the second last question is for you, ma'am. India has a large youth population, which is more than 35 crores, which offers us a great opportunity in integrating that youth into foreign policy. While there are many efforts that exist, like initiatives, forums, but the main problem is it is not still institutionalized. How can India systematically integrate its youth into its foreign policy?
Right. I think you've rightly mentioned that we have the one of the largest populations in the world, and I think it's fascinating to see how over the last few decades we have gone from we used to see our huge population as a problem, as a challenge to us, but now it is time that we start seeing it more as a strategic asset. Right? We have a great demographic dividend. Like I mentioned a statistic in my presentation as well, that we have more than 65% of our population is under 35 years of age. And that means we have the highest number of Gen Z and millennials, right? So that is, we need to use that to our advantage. But like we have already spoken about, that their discussions are often lost in these dialogues and they do not translate into action. So they need to be more institutionalized. So I would like to just give a few examples because I have seen in Finland and Norway, there are youth advisory councils within the ministries of their foreign ministries. And I think India could also have something like that. We could have a youth policy council, which is more integrated into our Ministry of External Affairs, so that we learn foreign policy discussions right at the outset. Young minds are trained in such a way. They are given the kind of education which probably our previous generation learned much later in practice, but we can begin even earlier. We also need to revamp, I think, our educational system with the changing times, because we are talking about changing geopolitics in every conference. You must have heard in Raisina here, every place we're just talking about how geopolitics and geoeconomics is constantly changing. So we not only do we have to change our response towards it, but right at the outset we need to change our school and university curriculum as well too, because now we need to put more things into perspective. For example, digital literacy, or training young minds for diplomacy right at the outset, so they can choose a career later in those kind of domains. And social media is something which I have already mentioned. I think that is a great tool which can be harnessed by the youth. In terms of institutionalization, I would just like to add that in addition to these councils and things like that, there needs to be more joint summits or more joint leadership programs between the youth of India and the youth of NATO. I think not just NATO, I think the youth across the globe. There is a global youth peace forum out there which has youth counterparts from every country come in, and they discuss about conflicts in their region, and they try to come up with non-violent ways to resolve those conflicts, right? So building up on initiatives like this, I think we can institutionalize things. And even if we cannot rely on state support, I think these can be youth driven movements as well. So I think youth really need to take it into their own hands to be able to do something about it.
I hope you want to answer.
Yes, you perfectly built the bridge. It's nothing we can do, but what we can appreciate is the simple fact that we had so many generals here, senior NATO staff, and experts which gave direct feedback to us, and to experience this on the other side of the globe is just a unique experience.
Right.
And I'm really grateful for this opportunity, and that's definitely something which should continue in future.
I hope both of your suggestions reaches to the right places.
Yes, we hope so too.
Yeah. So here comes the final and the fun part. I'll be doing a rapid fire with both of you guys, beginning with Dr. Sneha. What's the most underestimated non-traditional security threat?
Underestimated.
Yeah.
I think artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence in the coming security domains and warfare, for sure.
Next one is for you, Mr. Bear. One word to describe the role of youth in global politics today.
The role, I would say, future. It's
Okay.
one word. We are the future, and we need to work hard to become better and shape the future.
The next one is for you, ma'am. F-22 or Su-57, a better fighter jet in terms of design?
Su-57.
Okay, I agree.
If I have to answer, absolutely in rapid fire, I would say that.
But Rafael's looks nice, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A book or a historical personality that has really inspired you?
I would go with a book. In German, it's called Abschied vom Abstieg. So it's a book about optimism when narratives of major political parties don't work anymore. And I think that's also something optimistic.
Next one for you, ma'am. One Indian contribution to global defense security, any contribution till date?
Any contribution till date? I think the concept of non-violence
The concept.
by Mahatma Gandhi.
Sure. I think I'm pretty much done with questions.
They were pretty good.
It was an honor and pleasure hosting you guys. With this, the podcast comes to an end. Thank you for watching, guys.